We will go ahead and get started. Today is Thursday, July 7th. Welcome, everybody. I hope everybody had a great time on your July 4th festivities. It's time to get back into gear. So glad to see everybody today. Why don't we go ahead and get started? First item on our agenda is a roll call. Ms. Lister.
Mr. Munoz? Mrs. Stewart Campbell is absent. Dr. Bonebrake? Mrs. Schmidt? Dr. Schumacher? And Mr. Tatum? Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Next item on our agenda is executive session. I am looking for a motion.
Mr. President, I move the Board of Education of USD 501 recess with executive staff into executive session for 30 minutes to discuss confidential personnel matters related to employee performance and claim resolution, for 30 minutes to protect the privacy of the individuals discussed, and the board will return to open session at 6:00 p.m. in the boardroom.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, Dr. Schumacher seconds. Any discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and move to the vote. Ms. Lister.
The vote is open. All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you so much. We'll go ahead and recess to executive session. Thank you. Okay, we will go ahead and get it back to work and to business. Next item on our agenda listed here for today is our Pledge of Allegiance. We have a video we're going to play, right? Is that right?
Students here today.
All right.
In fact, they're the top in the nation. And so we'll turn it over to them to go over to the microphone so they can you get them really good on that side? That one's better. Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, and can you introduce yourselves? We know that you're the top in the nation, but what are your names as far as the board and what schools do you go to?
My name is Ainsley Schimmel, and I'm a senior at Topeka West High School.
My name is Manai Isaiah, and I will be a freshman starting fall at Allen County Community College in Burlingame.
Well, welcome you all. So glad to have somebody here in person to lead us in that. Next item on the agenda is our adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I move the board approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you so much. There is a motion. Is there a second? Okay, second by Ms. Schmidt. Any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, we'll go ahead and move to a vote. Okay, thank you very much. Next item is school highlights. Dr. Anderson.
Right, this is my favorite part of the board meeting. All right, so we have a special group. We only have one highlight because they are so exceptional that this is the only thing we need to be talking about tonight. And rather than me, you get to see the article. So if you haven't seen the article and you're watching online, you'll get a chance to see not only the top scholars in the nation, but also our top teachers in the nation. I'm going to turn it over to both Ms. Kimsey and Ms. Dixon, and they'll introduce and share a little bit about what they do and why they're here today, and then they'll introduce our student scholars, and we'll go from there. Why don't we start with Ms. Kimsey? You want to come on up? And Ms. Dixon.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having us. It's nice to see you all. Robin and I teach over at TCALC in the teaching pathway. Robin teaches in the morning and I teach in the afternoon. Students from all over the district can come and be part of our class. We're trying to find the next best teachers to fill our schools. And we had the chance to be part of what is called Educators Rising. And it's a program that allows students all across the nation to learn more and compete to see who's the greatest teacher. And we have two of them here with us tonight. So we took the kids to the regional competition, which was at Mid-American Nazarene College in Olathe in November. And we had 5 kids who competed at the regional, and they all did very well. And then we were invited to take 3 to the state competition, and that was at Ottawa University. And that was really exciting. And there were like around 200, 250 that were there in the competition. So that was just, pretty electrifying to see so many students in our state who think they want to become teachers. So that was pretty awesome. So from there, that particular day, they only called to the stage those who took first place and second place. And Manaya and Ainsley got called to the stage. So in the state of Kansas, Manaya took first place in the STEM competition. I'll let the girls explain what they did. And Ainsley took second place in the STEM competition for the state of Kansas. But something I really want to share is that back in September, Robin and I had the absolute, it was an honor in the long run to take our kids and go over to the Kansas Science Park. And I know, Ms. Foley, you've been part of that in the past, over to the Kansas Science Park. And they taught 3,000 students in a 6-week period of time. Like I told the girls over and over, there are teachers who've taught 4 or 5 years who've only had 100 to 125 teachers. You've taught 3,000. So, basically 1,000 fourth graders, 1,000 fifth graders, 1,000 seventh graders. So they started with 7th grade and came back to teach 4th and 5th after that. Yeah, they continued.
It was a little intimidating at the beginning.
They continued to come back. So, but that was the taste of STEM and science, technology, engineering, which is design, making something, and then mathematics. And you have art in there as well. And can I turn this over to the girls? Oh, and then Dr. Anderson and Mrs. Wallace and Laura, I can't think of your last name at the moment. Robbins. All I can think of is Laura, and I'm trying to be polite. Mr. Robbins. They graciously said that we could take the girls and go to nationals. And that was incredible to take them to Washington, D.C. And we will and compete with 2,000 people. So that was exciting.
While they're still up here, and ladies, stay on up, we're going to call our first student on up and give you a thunderous applause, and then our second student. Then we're going to turn it over to our board to ask you some questions and just to listen to a little bit about your story. You are truly exceptional. So for our first student, and do you want to call their name?
Absolutely. Manaya Isaiah. Woo! She is a graduate of Topeka West High School. Ainsley Schimmel. She will be a senior at Topeka West High School.
All right, well, stay on up here. And with that, for you to know, one of the things we put in teaching and learning is for all of Ms. Wallace's staff to teach half day. It's not only a budget way to stretch the budget, but it is also a way to be true practitioners and to continue your trade. So this is the first year that they have taught at TCALC as half of their job. And first year to go to nationals is pretty extraordinary. They were ranked as number 5 and number 10. Am I right?
It turned out to be 6 and 8.
Okay, 6 and 8, and then you two also were highlighted. That's the top 5.
Yeah.
The top 5 teachers of teachers in the nation. That's pretty extraordinary. So let's give them another round of applause, and we're going to turn it over to our lady.
Hi, my name is Manaya, as you guys already know. I based my project over potential and kinetic energy, and we made that energy into a form of a catapult where I taught 5th graders over it, and they had to really get to know about which energies and like how the 2 energies were being created with the catapult, whether it was pulling it back or like letting it release. I really just had to let them know which 2 energies were being created.
My project was on density, and I just want to say both of our projects included a lesson plan video. So we videoed ourselves teaching a 5th grade class at Meadows, and then we had to write a really detailed Madeline Hunter lesson plan to go along with that. And then we went to Washington and had to defend our project in front of a panel of 3 judges.
Well, congratulations on all of your hard work. We're incredibly proud of you all. Questions from colleagues? Yes, Mr. Tatum.
Ladies, thank you for all that you guys have done. Sounds like quite a bit of a challenge that you faced in just making this whole thing come together and doing it with excellence. And I think you've both demonstrated that. Wanted to ask you a little bit about the experience of teaching, especially in light of the fact that you were part of what your role was to teach younger students who weren't all that much younger than you. And I just really curious if you guys can kind of talk about that experience and what that was like.
Yeah, it is difficult still being in high school and teaching students, but our teachers have done an incredible job teaching us about professionalism and everything that teaching brings and offers, that when we step foot in the classroom for the first time, we were ready. When you're a junior and senior in high school, you get the opportunity to be in a classroom, and the fact that we were juniors and seniors in high school doing it, it was challenging, but we had a blast.
Anything to add, Manias?
Oh, no, she really said everything that I was thinking.
Okay, great. Thank you both.
Ms. Schmidt.
So congratulations. My question to you guys is, I know when you entered into this, you probably had some expectations. So what was exactly like you thought it would be? And then on the flip side, what have you learned that you maybe didn't expect when you started?
Coming into this, I think Ainsley and I can both agree that we did not expect that education can go this far, especially with it being a national conference. But being in this opportunity, we can both see that it is different from being on the student side of the table to being on the teacher's side of the table, bringing where you have to make all these lesson plans and really having a lot of classroom management, just knowing a lot of details into the classroom that you wouldn't see as a student.
I think something that we both learned is that, like she said with the lesson plan, but we had to learn about social emotional learning, project-based learning, and everything that teachers do behind the scenes that takes a lot of research, takes a lot of work to perfect it. And it just makes being in a classroom and behind a desk and listening to a teacher's lecture that much more important now that we have the actual experience of doing it all.
Mrs. Boley.
Thank you for taking some of your time this summer to devote to this next step in your profession. I'm just so impressed that you're here tonight. You're in Washington, D.C. with your instructors. It's just incredible. So I have two questions. First, you were in the nation's capital with 2,000 teachers or pre-teachers across the nation. What was it that you learned that was so valuable to you to speak with so many different people from around the nation? And my second question would be, touring Washington, D.C., which is a fabulous place to visit, what was your most memorable memory that you're going to take with you in your own personal life and also take back into a classroom?
To answer your first question, I believe just hearing everybody's stories about why they want to become a teacher and like all the other teachers that have inspired them to become a teacher, really just kind of relates back to us on why we all want to become a really good teacher, just to inspire other students to hopefully step into the world of education.
To answer your first question, and I said this in my interview with Rafael, just meeting people from around the United States that want to be teachers and hearing about what their classroom experiences are like just made me appreciate where I came from. And that was a really eye-opening experience for me. And I said it there and I'll say it again, Topeka West 501 are leading learners. So, and the best thing that we saw was the Holocaust Museum, 100%. That was something that I cannot wait to talk about in a classroom.
Well, thank you all again so much for being here. Congratulations again on all of your accomplishments. We can't wait to see what else awaits you in the future. Yeah.
We know it requires great leadership from the classroom to produce future educators who will transform generations moving forward. So we asked Ms. Dixon and Mrs. Kimsey, can you please come up for just a moment? Exceptional. All right. Board members, we normally take a photo. We only have one highlight. Can we take a photo really quickly with these ladies and then we'll free them up? That is our only highlight, I believe, for this evening. And those are all of our highlights for this evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson. Next item on the agenda is public communication. Ms. Lister, do we have any public communication for today?
Mr. President, we do not.
Thank you so much. Moving on beyond that is, let's take a look here. Yeah, disposition of business by consent. Do we have a motion?
Yes, we do. Mr. President, I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
Thank you so much. We have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, I see Dr. Bonebrake. Did you have a question?
I wonder if we're keeping better track of where these instruments go.
Yeah. So Ms. Wallace will be with us at the next board meeting, and I'll have her give a report. Yes, we are keeping track of the instruments. They do lease them as well. Some of them are purchasing them now, but I'll have her give a report just in general about, she's giving a report on summer experiences. A lot of fine arts and music programs happen, so she'll just add in how we're tracking musical instruments at the next meeting, if that's okay, Dr. Bonebrake, since that's her area.
Okay, so we didn't have a motion. We'll call back. Is there a second? Okay, Mr. Tatum has a second. Any discussion? All right, with no discussions seen, I'll go ahead and move to a vote. Ms. Lister. Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda, I believe, is the superintendent's report. Dr. Anderson.
Parents as teachers. We're going to ask Miss Farley to come on up to the microphone. And as she comes up, she'll share with you about an award that she received about a year or two ago now.
4 or 5.
It's been 4 or 5. We were so excited. I'm still excited about that award because we are nationally known in the parents as teachers realm. So she's going to share what that is for members who wouldn't necessarily know about that. Then we're going to talk a little bit about early childhood. It's a piece of our strategic plan and what we're doing with young people age birth on up. And can you also mention someone's going to be on the news tonight? One of your staff members, Ms.
Yes.
Twimlow. You want to mention why that is?
Yes, so Ms. Twimlow is going to be talking tonight about the new safe sleep recommendations. She's also an educator at the hospital in the birthplace and has been so for over 20 years and doing a lot of community work like parents as teachers. So she's going to be talking tonight about this new recommendations. And of course, that really benefits our school district and our program as we have somebody that is Safe Sleep certified that helps train our staff and make sure that, we're having as many healthy babies as possible. So thank you so much for letting me be here tonight and talk about parents as teachers. I get super excited to talk about parents as teachers because I love it. And I've been with the district for about 13 years. And serving as the coordinator for like the last 6 years, I think. But I'll tell you this, when I started Parents as Teachers, I said, this is what I wanted to do. This is always what I wanted to do. I didn't know early childhood was a thing the way it is with Parents as Teachers starting off early. So it combines two of my favorite things, which is education and also social work. So Dr. Anderson mentioned that we are a Blue Ribbon program, which means that we are the highest quality of Parents as Teachers. We will be going through that process again. Starting next year, and I think we are on track to also continue to remain a Blue Ribbon affiliate. So that means that the quality programming that we're offering to families, we're holding true to the model of Parents as Teachers, but that also means that we are supporting families with the quality that you guys should expect from us. So I mentioned that. So here's some just overview of Parents as Teachers. We are a 12-month program. We serve families prenatally up until they enter kindergarten. Now, what that means, though, is that we serve kids primarily birth to 3. That is our main focus. But along with that, we will serve some children 3 up until they start kindergarten. And what we do is we assess the need, right? We know that in our school district, we don't necessarily have spots for every single preschooler, or there's families that may not want that as an option. And so we continue to support kids, but we also support kids in a classroom too. So there may be some kids that are receiving parent visitation services along with the classroom experience. And we just realized that combining those two things is really important for a lot of families. We are at Avondale East, Pine Ridge, Clinton Heights, and Shaner. We are 210 families served this year. I just ran our new numbers, and I want to mention this to you as something I feel like it's important to mention. We are at 51% high needs or stressors families. So over half of our families receive twice-a-month visits. And I think that's important because when you look across the state, we are one of the few school districts that serves families with those high of needs. A year ago, that was 44%. So just something that I feel like it's really important. We also have an educator that serves lots of families at the high schools and serves them during home visits with that. 284 children that are being served. We also have 10 parent educators, 2 bilingual parent educators. So I think we have about 27 Spanish-speaking families in our program. We're looking at the entire family. So we may talk about parents as teachers serving children. We are thinking about families. Okay, and I want that's really important as far as the model is concerned. And if you could see there, 111 referrals. Think about that. That's referrals to doctor's offices. That's referrals to Tiny K or to preschool intervention program. These are kids that have further needs, ENT, lots of the dentists. So all these referrals that are being made for families. We are also working with DCF just recently in the past couple of years to serve families with the Family First Grant, which is prevention services. And we've served probably about 8 families with that. In fact, one family is going on their year of service with that program. And I want to just, if I have it in here, I want to just tell you what this family told the PE. The parents had some addiction issues, and they said several times just being in the program stopped me from drinking. If not from this program, I don't know that I'd be where I am.
Mom also had severe postpartum after her first child. And she said several times after this last baby was born, the reason that I got out of bed was because I knew you would hold me accountable. Okay, so when we're thinking about what we do in the program, small portion of our school district, we're really saving families' lives. So I want that to be really important. And other things we're doing, playgroups, and that's really important in our school district. Again, partnering with preschool intervention, with Tiny K, and also some general education children that need additional support. Playgroup is functioning in that, being able to support those families as they get services, but also do so in a classroom-like setting, right? To be able to do that with their parent. And we have community connections, and several of you participated in our Roll and Read, really encouraging families to read and to do the literacy piece with our family. We had a great turnout, and we're hoping to partner with United Way again to do that next year. One of the things that Sarah definitely wanted me to mention in this presentation as I talk to you, and along with Ms. Twemlow, we have experts on our staff that have been asked to present. She's been presenting nationally for parents as teachers about safe sleep, other educators that have presented nationally about other issues. So we have staff that have really viewed as experts in the community in certain areas. So moving forward with parents as teachers, we're looking really at twice a year ASQ screenings. We know we're doing kindergarten screenings. We're doing preschool screenings around the district, but we are screening kids twice a year. And we're looking towards moving ASQ online so that we're going to be able to track, and this is super exciting to me, track children birth all the way up until 5th grade with ASQ data, which I think is super exciting. And we're really going to be tracking cohorts of PAT children in their long-term success in TPS. We're also really going to be working on those referrals for preschool intervention for maybe those children that may not quite qualify for a classroom or for additional services, but still need something to help support them and get them ready for school. We're going to continue the use of Healthify, which is just lost the term of what Healthify is. It's a community network of about 22 community partners that helps connect families and connect them to resources in the community. And so we receive a lot of referrals that way. In addition to increasing really the tracking of families that come in just to playgroups that may not be enrolled in our program, but those that are being supported by PAT in one way or another that necessarily are not enrolled in the programming. So that's kind of where we are moving forward. But thank you so much for letting me chat about that. There's some more information about the expanding of early childhood, and I'll let Dr. Anderson talk more about that.
So 2 areas. One, can you mention the expansion under her leadership and over the last, I'd say 5-6 years, she really has expanded parents as teachers to the models that she mentioned. And this online piece is so critical because as of that, when we implement that into Tyler, that means we can track children birth all the way through 12th grade for their academic assessments, all their screenings. You know, you start off with ASQ and all these other screenings that we're doing, social emotional. So we really have an academic health history and a social emotional health history for every child. But this will make it so that it's birth all the way through 12th grade as opposed to kindergarten through 12th. We introduced Tyler in 2016-17. And since then, it's just continued to expand in some amazing ways. Did you want to speak to the expansion under your leadership at all in terms of where you were and where you are now, so new board members can appreciate that? And then I'll mention the pilot that's coming up.
Okay. Well, I think one of the expansion though is that we did move into Shaner when Shaner opened, and we have a playroom there, really a classroom that supports families there. And we're really working at how we can really collaborate together. I know one of the things we talked about is even just safety and lots of children that are not in safe car seats, and that being an opportunity for us to really partner together with them and as well as other events like Blockfest. So really supporting some of the needs in the school there, but supporting them in a way that we can help continue. We also are working too with Head Start on some families that we receive direct referrals from. And so we're really trying to, one of the things I would say too, definitely under Ms. Sharp's leadership, is that we are really trying to come together as early childhood and really look at families and children from until they enter kindergarten. Okay, my family is with me. This is my husband, Gennaro. My mother, Joyce, she retired last year from the district at Sheldon and was with the district for almost 20 years. And then my mother-in-law, Shirley. So they're always my team. They always support me. So thanks.
All right, and we're going to open this up for questions. Just to kind of conclude this piece, I've already mentioned to you, we are looking to pilot a 2-year-old daycare program at Shaner Early Learning Academy. So we've proceeded with looking at licensure and then the final step of concluding that licensure step. This will be made available to staff only. We will have about 14 spots. And with those spaces available, it really will be one of the most competitive daycare tuitions in the area of about $185. And you'll see up there, 36 weeks is what the program really provides. So, we have this space where what was mentioned was that some people don't go to preschool, some people don't start early enough. Well, often the cost of daycare is the stopping factor. So to further help with salaries of staff, and we learned this on the listening tour as well, the cost of daycare can be $250, $280. If we were to provide this and then make it accessible to staff, once we're licensed, we actually could take DCF payments, which other programs can't take because they're not a licensed daycare. So preschools can't take that, but this daycare could. So that would mean families who couldn't otherwise afford services. And we have put out a survey to see if people are interested and for them to sign up. So we already have a list of families that are ready to move in. So we see this as a retention and recruitment piece as well. We did build in about $30,000 to $35,000 of funds that could be unexpected expenses, like someone doesn't pay tuition. And with that gap in funding, to ensure this doesn't cost the district beyond giving the space at Shaner, we asked Topeka Community Foundation to fund the $30,000 to $35,000, and they so graciously, the board at Topeka Community Foundation agreed to do this. It's in alignment with their social determinants of health, so we thank them. So we have even the gap that could occur this year covered, in addition to the tuition, which staff will have to have it as a direct deduction from their payroll as a participant. Outside of that, as I conclude, I'm going to turn it back over for any questions you may have about the daycare, but about the Parents as Teachers program overall. Turn it over to Ms. Fairley.
All right, thank you so much. I'm a big fan of Parents as Teachers. And I think what I took away from it, and I think the parents talked about it somewhat, was the fact that it changes the way as a parent you think about play and about those things. Children 0 to 5 learn through playing, and I understood my role in helping my young children by playing with them, and it wasn't necessarily the way that I was raised and brought up, in the way I understood what a parent's role is. So I'm a big fan, and I tell everybody about PAT. So glad to hear about all the work that you're doing. Do we have questions here? Okay, Ms. Schmidt.
So, wow. Just wow, you guys are doing some amazing things. I'm always awed to hear about the stuff that's going on, and I'm like, why do more people not know about this? Why are we not talking about it? So great work. I love that you're wrapping around the parents, right? Parenting's tough, doesn't come with a guidebook. Man, it's stressful. And I think, the last few years have just exacerbated that. So I love that, to hear the feedback that you're getting from people that should be validating to you, saying what you're doing is truly, truly impactful. In the statistics you were talking about, and you may not know the answer to this, and that's absolutely fine. You said there was a slight jump from like 44 to 51%. What, do you have any idea what caused that?
So I could give a couple of ideas. In fact, I was looking over some of our numbers that I ran, and I could tell you that some of the risk factors have just jumped up quite a bit. Give me a second here, and I'll tell you the one that I noticed was jumped the highest. Families that have more stressors. We were looking at about 10% of 4 or more stressors, right? That could be a young parent, that could be not having a high school diploma, that could be a mental health issue or a disability, incarceration, loss of a parent, 10% to 17% this past year. I just think families are dealing with way more stressors. And again, that jumped up from the fact that less of our families had those risk factors to the majority of our families have more risk factors, which I think, just goes to show, one, I think we're asking the questions, right? We're asking families questions about these things because we are wrapping around the family. But two, I think it goes to the fact that people are dealing with all these things. And what it is, one of the things I want to mention too, though, is that when you allow someone in your home, it's a gift. And these families are giving us that opportunity to come into their homes and help support them in their parenting. But yeah, I think that's some of it.
Okay, one follow-up question. And I think when we have groups like this come talk to us about what they're doing, we should make this a requirement. What can the people that are listening to this do to help?
Thank you. Tell anybody in the district, we have this free program that can support you and your family. That is the biggest thing I think you can do to help is word of mouth. We get the majority of it. We have some community partners that help us talk to families in the hospital, but our best referrals are from other families and other people saying, I did parents as teachers and it was supporting me and it helped my family. I think that's the biggest thing that we can do. And I definitely want to give a shout out to my staff. They are very hardworking women. And I think they do, we see families during the daytime, we see families in the evening, we see families on Saturdays and on Sundays. And they just love their job so much, and they come into my office and tell me the situations that are going on, and they're so resilient in that they say, okay, this is going on, but I've got to support them. So I just want to make sure that I acknowledge how hardworking that they are, because all of the work I do is only possible because I have a great staff.
Dr. Bonebrake.
I think that instruction manual comes right after. But seriously, seriously, this is fabulous, phenomenal, and unfortunately very necessary work. I wonder how many of the families are single parent.
So it's not a number I have with me currently, but it's a number I could absolutely get. But I don't have that number, but I could tell you that number, email you that number. You'd be surprised. I will say, though, that I was looking at the numbers of families that multiple parents, number of visits. It's around 500 visits that we had multiple parents in. And our total number of visits for the year was about 2,200. I would say probably half or a little less than half are single parents. We have a lot of partnered families too. So that kind of depends on how we count it. Partnered living together but considered single, so it kind of depends on how they count it, or sometimes that maybe they're involved in their lives but maybe they're not living together. So it just depends on how they count it.
Other questions? Yes, Mr. Tatum.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So did you ever did the definition of healthify ever come to you?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm curious, because I Googled it and it doesn't seem to be child oriented, preschool oriented. So
Yeah.
what did you?
And can I speak to
come up
that
with?
as she looks that up? So we were the pilot nationally. We were actually contacting myself and Dr. Grimes to see if we would pilot Healthify. And not only for parents as teachers, but we use it with our counselors and social workers just in general. So if a parent comes in, as you know, we have impact avenues. So let's say someone comes in, they talk about all their needs, put it into one database. There's now nationally, thanks to Topeka's participation, to kind of jumpstart this as a school district, because with medical records, hospitals were using something similar in terms of you meet with a social worker and you can get a list of services in your area and the agencies that can support you. So the thought was, what if a school system had that access? So we piloted it with our social workers. I agreed to do it. Dr. Grimes was more than willing to try it. Our nurses use Healthify with our families. But for parents as teachers, you can talk about how you all use it in that space.
Yeah, so the majority of it, it's basically a network of community partners, and it's a system that allows us to receive and send out referrals. So instead of having to hand send something over, I'm able to go into a system and be able to track who sent that over, why they sent the referral over, and any attachments that go along with that. So the majority of the use that we have for it is receiving referrals from Successful Connections, which is a community organization that helps go into hospitals and talk to all of the moms. They try to, and then they figure out which home visitation program or which service might be of help for them. So there are lots of community ways that people are using it. Hospital, using it, but there's ways.
So it's a system of networking that kind of connects people to as a clearinghouse to the kind of resources that they need in the community that could meet their needs.
Correct. And one service is parents as teachers. Now for us, we use it to connect people with services. But imagine if a parent is in a hospital, are a single or married, and they have a child, and they find that, man, you need all these services, and Speak Public Schools actually has that. We're in that Healthify network listed as a partner, as a community partner. They will then put the referral in, just like if you're referring a patient to another doctor, she gets referred to as, I guess in this case, kind of the physician, if you will. She gets the referral, she contacts the family, she enrolls them in parents as teachers. So it's, many different ways, but for you to know, Healthify is not a PAT thing. Healthify is a pilot that was introduced, and literally I was contacted out of the blue actually in terms of, hey, this was an idea, will the school district pilot it? Which is how we started participating, but it's really expanded in some phenomenal ways.
PAT is just one small piece of that here.
Very small piece of it.
Okay, very good. I also want to say I'd be remiss if I did not add that Parents as Teachers was very influential for me and my family as well. I remember when my oldest kids were little, that's 20 plus years ago, but I remember Parents as Teachers, instructors coming over to our house. And like Mr. Mignot said, just really kind of helped me redefine my understanding of play and just really formative of an experience that I've never forgotten. So yeah, I'm also one that definitely sings the praises of Parents as Teachers. So thank you and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I have just one last question is, I didn't know you had Parents as Teachers in a couple of different other places, Pine Ridge and a couple of others. That's great. Where do you see Parents as Teachers going in the future? If you think big,
So if I were to think really big, and Sarah and I have had this conversation, it would be that we would extend into an early Head Start model to be able to serve families that way. I believe that we have a lot of families that would qualify in early Head Start, home visitation, and that would use the model of Parents as Teachers to support them, but to be able to provide additional funding structure around what early Head Start would look like. I think that we are in strategic places in the community that we're able to serve strategic pockets of families, which I think is excellent. And I think one thing that we have talked about as a staff, though, is to have a better reflection of our school district reflected in our program. Right now, I don't believe that we are reflected fully in our program as far as ethnicity and diversity as I would like to be. And that's something that we internally have had dialogue about, and we're going to be working towards.
that sounds great. Thank you so much.
And it's awesome you brought your whole family with you as we talk about, and they're videotaping as we talk about Parents as Teachers. We are so very proud of you. Thank you very much. That does conclude our report this evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson. Our next item on the agenda is a discussion item, which is proposed policy and regulation changes. Now, do I understand, Ms. Smith, that you'll be introducing that? Okay, thanks so much. I'll take it away.
All right. The policy committee met this past, was it last week already? Man. last week, and we have started going through various policies each month to review them. Specifically, Mrs. Whiteman is kind of calling out ones that have changed because of legislation, and then some. A lot of it is just tightening up the language that is in those. Plain speak is what a lot of people talk about, taking some of the legalese out of our policies. So the first one, and I think you all should have these, a copy of these were sent out along with our agenda, is policy 1010. And this specific one is adding in the language for the Gannon School Finance Quality Education Factors. As you look at those policies, she did try to make it as easy as possible to see what we're changing. So she lined through anything that we're taking out and either bolded or put it in red. I'm not looking at it online. So the additions to the policy. So that'll help clarify what within the policy itself is changing. In policy 1031, that speaks to officers of the board. Historically, they have been elected in July, and we're changing that to January to line up with the new to the statute, and that is also when board members change as well. Policy 1036 is around public participation, and we're deleting some language in that specific policy. The piece that says will not be allowed to make allegations or complaints against individual employees, and adds that they will be referred to the superintendent for investigation and resolution as required by board policy 2050. The next one we reviewed is regulation 2005-01, and that is around the organizational chart. I did hand this out to you, so you should have a copy of that. There are some additional changes I think that are being made to that, but it gives you an opportunity to review. Specifically, we were adding Dr. Mejia's name and title and Mrs. Whiteman's name, but there will be some additional changes as I understand it being made to that. Regulation 2150-01 is around legislative matters. We updated some language and procedures at the last revisions were in 1996. We're a little behind on that one. We deleted the language legislative consultant's office, as that is a position that no longer exists, and we added superintendent. We also added board member to the guidelines for presenters, as a board has authority to designate a board member to testify on our behalf. The fifth one is policy 2540, annual operating budget, which is in the administrative section. We included new language that was a result of 2022 House Bill 2567, Section 12, which requires boards to use the information from the educational needs assessment of each attendance center. The board must include in the minutes for the needs assessment was provided and evaluated by the board. In reviewing the annual assessment results, the board must document the barriers that need to be overcome for all students, any budget actions needed, and the amount of time estimated for all students to achieve proficiency. Regulation 4240, around tax sheltered annuities. We deleted the reference to multiple vendors per board resolution 20006, as the board has authorized Horace Mann as the new consolidated single vendor, and no longer refers to tax sheltered annuities. It is designated new language of government retirement savings plan. And I believe that covers most of it. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Back on policy, let's see, 1031 on page 1, Ms. Schmidt, you mentioned that the the board officers would be changed so that they are elected in January, which is what we currently do. But that's not what the information that I'm looking at says, unless I have a different version than everyone else. I pulled this. Yeah.
Oh, you're looking, okay, so you're looking at the review. That was a little, that was a summation of all our changes.
Okay.
And there was an error in that. It said June to the July.
Okay.
But if you go and look in the actual policy itself, it does say that historically they'd been held in July and we're changing that to January.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
So with this, I believe the intent is that we, kind of socialize these changes here. Everybody can go back and review them. And then at the next board meeting, we'll typically vote on whether we want to approve them or not. Ms. Whiteman, did I leave anything out? You did very exceptional notes. Thank you.
I will give you the organizational charts. They were finished today. So, and there were a few items that were added in terms of retiree names, but not necessarily positions. So I'll just, you already, aren't you on time? All right. He actually had it handy. It was completed right before the board meeting. So we'll put that at your table.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for all that work. I mean, it's going into policy and the nitty gritty is not easy at all. And so having someone go through that, it's yourself and who else is on your committee? Remind me.
Ms. Stewart Campbell and Ms. Bowley, and then Ms. Whiteman.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your work. I appreciate it. So for the rest of us, take a look at that. And if you have any questions, make sure and have those ready, as we'll consider some potential action next meeting. Anything before we move on from this proposal? No? Okay. Let's see. Moving on from the discussion item is board member comments and committee reports. And we'll start with Dr. Bonebrake.
As you know, I was having some free time on a cruise, but I saw my niece, who's a teacher in Germany, and I found an interesting fact that European schools do not have athletics or sports sponsored by the schools. They are all community driven and organized, much like our summer baseball programs, where your child may perform in a tournament in Kansas City or Chicago or Florida, traveling the nation with sponsorship from the community or personal donations. They have no athletics in schools. I found that absolutely amazing. What would we do if we didn't have a basketball coach we could pay $10 million to? That's all.
All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Schumacher.
I don't have any committee reports and only a few comments. The policy regulation changes. I feel like Ms. Whiteman must dream in strike-throughs and red letters. As somebody that's going through documents like that right now on a weekly basis, it's occupies my mind at all times. So I just really want to thank the work that's being done at TCALC with that teaching pathway, and Ms. Kinsey and Ms. Dixon. As a parent of a student that Ms. Kinsey has touched, she's touched our whole family, and she was an amazing educator, and I'm excited that she continues to, her along with her whole team, continue to support and inspire future educators. We talk a lot about the retention of educators, and we just got to grow our own and and snatch them up after they graduate. And then parents as teachers, Ms. Twinlow, who is a good friend of ours, and all the work that's done with that team. As a pediatrician, I do get the book on how to raise a child. Just took 7 years of school. But they're invaluable to the parents and the patients that I serve and the community that we all serve. And I'm excited by the pilot program, knowing that space that exists between 0 to 3, 0 to 2, and then 3 and up. And also knowing having talking with parents every day and having reliable childcare, feeling comfortable that you can go to work every day and that your kid is going to be taken care of. And hopefully with this pilot program, even better than that, where they'll have enrichment and have a leg up when they move on, whether that be preschool or kindergarten. I'm very excited about that. So I appreciate all the work that's being done.
Thank you so much. Mr. Tatum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. While I wasn't jet setting quite as much as Dr. Bonebreak, my wife and I last week did enjoy some time in Florida. We were in Orlando for part of the week and went to several of the Disney theme parks, and then spent the rest of the time in Clearwater on the beach. And so really I got a chance to do something fun. Going to Florida has kind of been a turning into an annual ritual for my wife and I. It's great to have a break from the kids. But while we were there, I can't stop thinking about an email that we all on the board received from Dr. Anderson last week, telling us that a teacher at Cap City passed away suddenly. The reason why I've been thinking about this a lot, my heart is very heavy, and it really goes out to his family and the Cap City family. But Mr. Harley Swanson was one of the teachers that I remember meeting when Miss Stewart Campbell and I went to visit Cap City a few months ago. And he stood out to me at that time because his brother is also a teacher at Cap City. So I remember meeting both of them. And just the thought that this young man in the prime of his life was just he's gone, and there's a hole there and will be in the lives of people that he touched, peers, family members, students. So definitely wanted to let everybody who was touched by him know that I'm thinking about them as well, and sending up my prayers and support for everybody who's been impacted by this loss. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much. Ms. Schmidt.
All right. So I copied off a couple pieces of paper and put them at everybody's little station, and a little context around it. Mental health is kind of a personal passion of mine. In complete transparency, my husband and I have 4 kids, and 2 of those 4 kids have been diagnosed with mental illness. And one of them we had a suicide attempt with. And actually, it was through the courage of a fellow student when he was in high school at Topeka High, who reached out to TPD, who has a crisis intervention team, right? They reached out to our officer placed at Topeka High to see if he knew, and we had 3:00 in the morning officers knocking on the door to do a well check. So anyways, long story short, mental health is a passion of mine. And my husband currently serves as the state board president for NAMI. This does not have to do with them. This was actually a young lady who came up to him at the NAMI walk and said she is part of this American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Now, I know at our schools, we have this awesome group of mental health teams at each of the schools, but I think we owe it as a board, especially if COVID's taught us anything, it's that mental health is very important and that at least we're talking about it a little bit more. And anyways, this American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has a suicide prevention program for schools. So I just thought maybe it's something we could look at. Maybe if there's an opportunity there that it can bolster what our mental health care teams are already doing or utilizing. If not, that's fine too. I just know that one of the myths when my husband and I teach classes at NAMI about mental illness to either parents and caregivers or family members, one of the big myths is that talking about suicide will lead to ideation of suicide. And that's absolutely not the case. We need to be talking about it. We need to let people, our students, as parents and teachers showed us, sometimes the family members of our students, we need to give them a safe place to talk about those things, that it's okay, and wrap our arms around them with whatever kind of services we can. So I just thought I'd share that. It was shared with him, and I thought, oh, well, I can share that with my fellow board members. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Bowley.
Mr. Munoz, may I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
Would mental health be something that might be one of the topics under the work session that we didn't have on there that could fit somewhere? We do have a youth suicide coalition that we started about 3 or 4 years ago. And so every high school has a youth coalition. In fact, we just sponsored the event for the county at Bishop. So I wonder if some of those young people, this is after school starts, one of your work sessions after school starts could come up. And if they're not already partnering, I think it's a wonderful idea with that particular service. I don't know if they're already partnering or not. So but learning what are we already doing, but how also are they partnering, but what are our young people doing? Because that youth coalition, that's where conversations are occurring and they're doing activities in their school. And that is probably not something that we've presented to the board. So maybe add that as a work session topic if
Yes.
that's the board. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
definitely.
I love the idea of that. And it's, especially if we have something in place, like I said, I imagine we do have things in place that, that I don't even comprehend. But if we can support that, if we can partner with agencies to help support the work that's taking place.
Especially on the national level. So I'll grab one of those flyers from you as well then.
Okay, thanks so much. Ms. Bowley.
I just enjoyed our presentation tonight so much. And I heard her make a statement that hopefully we can do more as our public school organization to be rolled into that Parents as Teachers organization to get the word out more. I know we have even our educators, some of them are struggling with parenting situations at home, that this could be, we could really spread the word more. And as we know, strong parents make strong children, which make strong students. So I think that's something we could really try to support back. I really want to know more about the roll and read. So when that occurs again this coming year, I hope that we'll be notified, the school board will be notified, and that we could take an opportunity to be there and be part of that. One of the things we approved in our consent tonight was robot labs, virtual reality kits, and going on virtual tours. And that's just so exciting to me that our students sometimes don't get the chance to even leave their own neighborhoods, that they can do these virtual tours with headsets and feel very much like they're there. And I just think that's so empowering. I wanted to thank Dr. Anderson and her whole team for the listening tours. Mr. Munoz and I were able to visit one yesterday, and the information that our community was sharing with us was just so empowering and so important. And it was really wonderful to hear many of the very good things that we're doing for our families in Topeka. And it was, thank you for taking the time to do that and reaching out to our community. That was really great. And I just wanted to second the thoughts of our TPS family and the loss that we've had, that our whole board's heart is hurting. And we're thinking very, very much about their family and our school's family. And we're just sorry for this loss. Thank you.
It's not a lot that hasn't already been said in terms of staff member that we've lost recently, as well as this focus on mental health, which I think is tied in together with school safety. You know, that's something that's huge on our minds. And so I think there's a lot of overlap there that I'd like to see. I did speak, I've just been speaking with the different groups recently, a Spanish speaking church, and, you know, let them know about the TPS enrichment program, which is, you know, goes on through the month of June. For those who just aren't aware of it, haven't heard about it as an opportunity for their students, as well as shared information about our summer program, meal program. And so just any chance I get to be able to talk about programs that 501 offers to its families during the summer, I make sure and do that, as well as I think I also shared Dolly Parton, as well as TPS has a program where if you read books, you turn them in, you get enough books read under your belt, you actually get prizes. And so my students are in that program, and I encourage you, if you haven't yet, I know there's still time through the Topeka Public Library to go to your library, check out materials, and if you do that, there's those prizes that await you. So a lot of things, as well as don't forget the Sunflower Summer Program, which I think we've talked about a lot of different times, opens up doors and opportunities for your not just to students, but families to be able to get kids in activities that will keep them learning and keep them active until they get back for school. So other than that, I think kudos again on the lesson sessions. We learned a lot about what families love about our session, but also learn about opportunities. And I think that's always important, to be able to earnestly listen to what we can do in order to increase our effectiveness serving students and serving their families. Yes, Ms. Schmidt.
Just a quick follow-up question to the listening tours. Will we receive any type of, document about opportunity, what you heard, things were doing well?
I'm so glad you asked. And look, thank you, Mr. Garcia, for the article. Because, by people getting the word out of what we're doing like that, and about Ms. Watson, I didn't get a chance to email you and thank you about that yet either. He was at the fair today. That, I think, even prompted more people coming to the other listening tours, as they've read about that. So with that, Mr. Gowan's pulling up real quick some of just some small bullets, but you're going to get tomorrow, the sheet that says in session 1. Oh, that's right. But in session 1, here's the top 10 things. In session 2, on one sheet, that just gives you kind of 5 or 6 items that were just really came up over and over again, which include diversity. So we were at Hy-Vee, and Hy-Vee is not in our school district area, but it is on the boundary of Topeka West. But people need jobs who shop at Hy-Vee. So, anyone that needed employment, they could come talk to us. We had several people that lived near Hy-Vee and not necessarily in the Topeka attendance area, but were driving all the way to Topeka in different schools. So they were able to come and say why they love TPS and why they do that. That was fascinating in terms of that. But again, the piece about diversity was the big piece that many of them shared, why they drive into Topeka. The other 4 items, just really quickly, but you're going to get a list of just several items because we have some new things that we'll be doing as a result of the listening tour. So each one of these people that give an idea that we're doing, we're emailing them saying, thank you so much, ideally within 24 hours. Here's something new that we're doing, like the family restrooms. You go into these big high schools having those, that's one. The other one, the passion, just talking about some students came and spoke with us at every tour. High school students, I think the youngest was a third grader. And we put a picture of him on social media from Randolph. But students expressed how much they'd like to have actually time for play, actually. It says a whole lot of words there, but ultimately that piece, TCALC was a big winner. The parents had never seen it, but their kids either got into it and they just moved into the state or places like TCAL. Really interesting. Senior citizens came, including a former board member. I didn't tell you this one, Mr. Robbins. I can't remember the board member's name. I think he was here with the who was that? Newsbomb. So he came and he came to the Discovery Center. Oh, that's right. Dr. Kip was at all the tours for the bilingual piece as well, but he was there. But then many other senior citizens, I don't know why so many senior citizens came to the Discovery Center. That was interesting. But they came and they wanted to find other ways to volunteer. But they also asked for former people who served on the board. Could they then get an update of things that are going on in the community. And then the last one was just the community supports. Just businesses and churches and people talked about loving that, but those people from those agencies came. It was just incredible. Primarily families showed up, and a handful of teachers. Dr. Stegman, our teacher that has ALS, she came to help out. And that was pretty remarkable to see. So thank you. And one of the things I'll say to Mr. Garcia, I think we listen. You just talked about being at Cap City. Our board, we have listening tours all the time in informal ways and in other ways. This was the unique piece of going out into the community in a way that led to some authentic relationships, which we hired 4 people from the listening tour last night, from the meat market, where no one speaks English. And at that meat market. So if we did not have, very few people spoke English. If we didn't have our other staff, and all those people got hired as bilingual parents today, it's just amazing. So thank you, and you will get a report, but not just you, the whole community will get a report of here's some things we heard and some opportunities as Mr.
The one other thing that I think I would add is inspired by sort of the work that administration has done is for us to consider perhaps an open house of some sort. I think this can seem like an intimidating place to come and before this whole sort of show, but to open the house for community members, for students, parents to learn about what we do here, but also get to know us. Make sure that people understand who we are and what role we play, and just open communication with individuals. We talked about as well, perhaps a board meeting out in the community, something. So I just want us to encourage us to think about what can we do to sort of close the gap between ourselves, students, parents, community members, and just one of a number of ideas, and certainly open to hear other ideas you all have, but let's commit ourselves to do more to close that gap. All right.
Can I just say I love that idea, especially because we're here to serve them, right? And so if we can make this a place where they feel welcome, maybe, I don't know, somehow we can help them understand what, the policies. When people come to me, I'm like, go check the school handbook or the policy book. That tells you what you get to hold us as a district accountable to. Maybe if we can help guide, educate, make some of it a lot less intimidating.
Yeah, and to understand sort of the process or the steps that the parent or anyone who has a particular issue, those steps that come before, there's a whole process and procedure there. So yeah, I think there's a lot that can be done there. So let's consider doing that. Well, that's all that I have, unless anybody else.
Mr. Munoz, can we take a moment of silence, sir?
Yes, let's definitely do that in memory of our staff member who we've lost recently.
And for those that are watching, it's Mr. Harley Swanson from Cap City, an art teacher who has taught with us for a number of years. His service is our visitation is on Saturday.
Well, thank you, everybody, for that. And thank you, everyone else, for your time, work, and effort today. We will be back in 2 weeks. We are